Some breaking transfer news. Ilkay Gundogan is going to leave Man City. It's just been confirmed in recent minutes. Absolutely crazy decision. My initial reaction, it just feels wrong. It feels a little bit short-sighted. That's just my initial reaction. I'll break it down later in this video. Of course, I'll also talk about where this leaves Man City going into next season. And of course, the Germans' enduring legacy at Man City, which is second to none. I will be talking about that later in the video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Tons of transfer videos coming out on the channel in recent weeks. The reason I say it feels wrong is there's a mixture in football between that kind of bittersweet letting a player go when it doesn't feel right, and then letting a player go because they're past their prime, they want to try a different culture, they don't want to stay at the club. That's a massive factor we never talk about in football, that actually footballers sometimes just don't want to be at a club, mate. They want to leave. They want to join Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. I think Leroy Sané is a good example. He didn't want to be at Man City. That's the reality. So when he leaves, there's a kind of, it's a bit bittersweet because of the potential that was there. He was an amazing player. He goes to Bayern Munich. That's his choice. And City are a club that don't hold on to players past their sell-by date. Ilkay Gundogan, there are reports coming out in the last couple of hours that his representatives and himself felt a little bit let down by the lack of attention from the club, the lack of drive maybe to get him on a longer term contract. Maybe that interest just was never there, and that's something that I'll have to explore on this channel in later weeks, especially if we go in for Declan Rice, which will be interesting. So take the Declan Rice thing out of it, whoever comes in to replace him. Obviously I've talked about Kovacic on the channel, it's my most recent video. That's different. Just talk about it as an isolated player. This is a guy, he's an early guy in his 30s, his early 30s. And his legacy at Man City, he's not a passenger. He used to be, you could argue, in the first couple of seasons, he was just someone that was tidy on the ball. He was smart. He worked hard for the team. Never not worked hard, Ilkay Gundogan. That's definitely something you can say about him. He's a hard worker, trustworthy. Even if the side weren't performing at the highest levels, whatever day that was, he would be there. But then you're talking about he's just captained the side to winning the treble. He's just scored 2 goals in an FA Cup final, the quickest goal in FA Cup final history. These weren't the 5th and 6th goals in a game. They were pivotal goals to winning a treble. I mean, we talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, his kind of legacy with Man United, or Roy Keane's legacy against Juventus, getting Man United to winning a treble in 1999. Ilkay Gundogan's got that kind of performance, that kind of record, if not more so because of those goals in the FA Cup final. Even in Turkey, I thought he was absolutely fantastic in midfield, especially when De Bruyne went off. So this is a player that can still contribute literally at the highest level. You could argue he's our biggest clutch player in the whole side. I mean, Haaland didn't score in the final 4 games of the season, missed a penalty against Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals, and a few other instances where a couple of moments he didn't win us the Champions League final. It wasn't his goal. He was obviously amazing throughout the season. It wasn't his goal that won us the FA Cup final. And towards the back end of the season, so it was Ilkay Gundogan that was really he really popped up with big goals. Let's just talk about some of the other things that he did achieve at the club. The goals against Aston Villa. I mean, the goal against Aston Villa, last day of the season, Liverpool could have gone on to win a quadruple. He literally helped us win an FA Cup. He's helped us win our first Champions League. And then, of course, he's helped us win the Premier League last season. And you would have thought the treble this season might have been a lot harder if we didn't have the confidence going into it from winning against Aston Villa, coming from a losing position at home to Aston Villa. So he's contributed on every single level. He scored a great goal against Brighton in the 98-point season. Let's talk about 304 appearances, 60 goals, 40 assists, 14 trophies. Do you know what I mean? 14 trophies. It's surreal how much this guy had an impact in the squad. So on that level, I have to say, it feels wrong to me on a footballing level. Now, on a human level, you go to Barcelona, it's a beautiful city. You play for one of the great clubs in the world. I absolutely get that. If he didn't want to be at Man City, but if it turns out that there's a kind of a lack of interest from the club to kind of keep him on, I do think that was wrong. That's just I have to just be real with my opinion as a football person in this world, that I think you've got to keep Ilkay Gundogan for 2 years if you're interested in retaining the Champions League. Because I think with City is, We're not interested about just winning the Champions League. I'm talking about the higher ups. I'm talking about Gundogan Mubarak and Sheikh Mansour. Whatever you think about them, as neutral fans, if you're watching this video, they're hyper ambitious. They've been hyper successful in the last 10 years. That is the reality. Whether you think we've blown teams out of the water with money, there's a lot of arguments that we've not really done that. I can do videos about that other times. So the reality is, if you want that kind of long-term legacy, phasing people out a little bit too early, which is my opinion, could be a little bit short-sighted. Now there's a big if. There's a big if, because if Declan Rice comes in straight away with Kovacic, suddenly that looks incredible. It's a big question mark, because Declan Rice will take time to adjust. He'll look at Calvin Phillips. You might be worried about going to Manchester. You might not even want to go to Manchester. If he did arrive in Man City, let's just say, that'd be hilarious if we beat Arsenal to sign him. He'd look at Calvin Phillips and think, you know, I've got to really perform here. The pressure could be crazy. So that'd be a worry. What if we don't sign Declan Rice? And I think City have to be, you know, City fans, I don't want to come across as sort of, I don't know what the word is. Is it magmonious or whatever the word is? It's like being kind of over the top with kind of power and money. It's like we won the treble. It would have been just nice to maybe keep some of these players around a little bit longer, just to give them standing ovations at games. I mean, I don't want to go out and say, right, we sell Ilkay Gundogan, get rid of Laporte, and then you suddenly bring in Garvadol for £100 million and Declan Rice for £100 million. Suddenly it's £200 million. The optics, as some would say in Succession, it's just slightly different. They're still fantastic moves, and I'm lucky enough as a City fan to even say that we've got the likes of, you know, £100 million to spend on centre-backs and midfielders. It's absolutely crazy. But I do like the romanticism of saying to Ilkay Gundogan, he captained us only a few weeks ago at the Ataturk Stadium. You know, give him that 2-year contract. Maybe Barcelona come in January. He's not playing much, whatever. And then you let him go for £15 million. You let him go for cheap. But I like the idea that you give loyalty back to players that have been loyal to the club. And not only loyal in Ilkay Gundogan's case, you know, he's been fundamental to everything City have done in the last 6 years. Again, Pep Guardiola's first transfer, a transfer that was £20 million. We talk about all this money City spent. You know, he was a £20 million player, a guy that had major issues in his back from Dortmund, and he kind of gets fit. He's far more physical. He puts on a little bit. I mean, I see the highlights from his first goal. I think it was De Bruyne who assisted him, actually. His first goal for City in 2016, maybe 17. He was so skinny, he was so small, and he's developed into a proper big footballer with a lot of talent and someone that's always fit. I mean, he's more fit than De Bruyne. He's more fit than a lot of other footballers in that side. So Ilkay Gundogan has left Man City, and I have to say it, he's left Dortmund. Everyone, you know, the German connection. He's made himself at City, you know, and there's 6, 7, 8 players now in the next 10 years that will look back and say City were at the pinnacle of their career, and they never got back to that level, which is a testament to the club, is a testament to the coach, and of course Guardiola. All in all, I think it's the wrong move, unless some crazy stuff happens in the transfer market, which is not something I want to be defending. I don't want to be going out saying we need to spend this, that, the other. It just would have been nice for the club to extend that 2-year contract, and he refuses it. Maybe that happened behind the scenes, I don't know. But from my understanding, that didn't happen. And there's a little bit of a shame in that. 2 weeks ago, he won us, helped win us the second treble in English football history. Very keen to what you think in the comments down below. Ilkay Gundogan is going to Barcelona. Fair play to him. It's a beautiful city. 2-year contract, maybe 3, so he gets that stability. And he goes down as one of the greats to ever play for Man City. It's as simple as that.